All right, guys, we are going to be looking at section 4 today. So we're taking things a step further. We started to see it a little bit in section 3, but we didn't really do a whole lot with it. So this is the section that we're going to do that. We're going to kind of add an extra step into this. The YouTube video here is Bozeman. He's really good. Sometimes it's better to hear, you can hear me teach it, but to hear somebody else's take on it and even to hear each other, students in the classroom. Sometimes it's just nice to hear it in different perspectives. So anyways, I really suggest, I know you guys are at home, I can't control what you're doing, but watch this video. He's really great at explaining things. They're going to watch it here in class. I'm going to go ahead and start with my part of the notes. So if you watch that, just kind of pause this, come back to it when you're done. All right, it's about a 7-minute video, but like I said, he's really good. All right, so we're going to start with kind of going what we did in the last section, which was finding molar mass, which is just using the periodic table, right? So the first thing here is they want the molar mass of methane, and methane is CH4. So if you're looking at your periodic table, right, anytime we need weights or masses, we're going to look at our periodic table. And if I look up there, carbon is 12, and remember it's okay to round. These are all approximations on the periodic table anyway. Hydrogen is 1, but there are 4 hydrogens, so I'm going to put a 4 there. So all together, the mass, the molar mass is 16 grams. Now remember, molar mass is different than atomic mass unit. Okay, atomic mass unit is 16 AMUs, but that is not the same thing as grams. I know it's mass and it's kind of confusing because we're like, oh, it's a mass though. But that is for one atom. One little bitty atom that we could never see with our eye weighs 16 AMUs. Now 16 grams I can weigh out. I have my scales in here and I can weigh out 16 grams and see that. Okay, so what this means though, molar mass, moles, think of moles. Molar mass is 16 grams in 1 mole. Okay, so the molar mass factors, what I mean by this is when I go to set up my problems, they can look one of 2 ways. I could say, okay, 1 mole of CH4 over 16 grams of CH4. Or I can put that 16 grams on top. It does not matter where I put it, CH4, because no matter what, I'm telling you that 1 mole of CH4 weighs 16 grams. It's just what kind of problem do I give you? Do the grams need to go on bottom or do they need to go on top? And that way that I've kind of given you to figure that out is supposed to be a guide to help you figure that out. So for example, aluminum is used to build lightweight bicycle frames. How many grams of aluminum are 3 moles of aluminum? Well, a lot of people would be like, okay, well, aluminum, if you look on the periodic table, weighs approximately 27 grams. And they're like, okay, 1 mole, you write that out here, 1 mole equals 27 grams. So how many do 3 moles weigh? So a lot of people right away know, hey, I'm going to multiply that. If you don't know what to do, if you don't know if you should multiply or divide, or a lot of people, even people that can get this one, as soon as I start throwing larger numbers in there, sometimes they're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Always start by writing down what they give you. If this is what they've given you. Now, this has to go on bottom. It is going to be canceled out through division. What am I looking for? I usually box that in. I'm looking for grams. I should have boxed in aluminum, grams of aluminum. All right, so now I'm going to use, you look up here, I'm going to use this type where moles are on bottom. So it's going to be 1 mole weighs 27 grams. And since that is on top, you are multiplying. It's going to be 3 times 27, which is 81 grams of aluminum. There we go. Okay, so we are doing the same type of math. It's just we're using a different unit now. We're now looking at grams. How much does this weigh? So to put this kind of in maybe terms that you would know, if I said I have 1 dozen donuts, how many donuts is that? Well, that's 12. Okay, well, how much does that weigh? They have a weight, right? Or I have 1 dozen pencils. How much does that weigh? I still have 12 pencils, but it's not going to weigh as much as those donuts. Okay, so it's the same thing here. I have 1 mole, which is 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. How much does that weigh? I have 3 moles of aluminum. How much does that weigh? Okay, so it's I think sometimes we just struggle with that large number and a term that we're not used to. But if I were to start saying gram or dozen with all of this, it's something we're more used to hearing. All right, so the learning check here, allyl sulfide, which is C6H10S, is a compound that has an odor of garlic. How many moles of C6H10S, so that's what we're looking for, are in 225 grams of C6H10S? So the first thing is always, anytime they give me a mass, I have to figure out, well, how much does C6H10, what does allyl sulfide weigh? So carbon is 12. If you look at the periodic table, it has a weight of 12, but there are 6 of these guys. So that's really 72. Hydrogen weighs 1, but there are 10 of them, so that's going to be 10. And sulfur, if you look at the periodic table, has a mass of 32. So all of that added together is 114 grams. Now the reason I need this is because I'm going to write down what they give me, which is 225 grams. I'm just going to write CHS. Be a little bit lazy there and not put my subscripts. So then when I do this, my grams of CHS are on bottom, and that is why I needed to find that number. Okay, over moles of CHS. Now, I'll keep saying this because we'll see this later on. Like, what if I wanted a piece of this? What if I said how many moles of carbon are in 225 grams of C6H10S? The only time I can get 2 carbon, I can get a piece of that, is to do a mole to mole. Okay, we're not going to do any of that just yet in this section, but I wanted to make sure you're aware that that could happen. We've seen that in previous chapters. So 114 grams in 1 mole. So this tells me I'm going to divide. I'm going to take 225 divided by 114, 1.97 moles of CHS. Now, you could have rounded and just said 2 moles. I am not picky on rounding. I don't care, guys. I just want to make sure you're doing the math right and that it's all set up correctly. Okay, so now that we have that, 1.97 moles of CHS, it's like I said a second ago. Let's say that I said, hey, I have 24 pencils, or I have 2 dozen pencils. If I have 2 dozen pencils, how many is that? You were to say like, oh, that's 24. Well, now I'm telling you, hey, I've got 1.97 moles. How much is that? So that's what this next step right here is saying. Take that learning check one step farther. 1 mole, we know this is something we've been saying, 1 mole is 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd molecules. So if 1 mole is that, what about the 2 moles of allyl sulfide? Okay, so a lot of you, since it's just small numbers, like, oh, 1 is this, how many are 2, you would know to multiply. But if you're not sure, you could do this. And I'm going to go ahead and use the 1.97. Like I said, you could use the 2. So this is what we did in the previous chapter. I know that moles, right away I know moles go on bottom. Now they are wanting to know how many particles. Now that would be like atoms, molecules. Particles means atoms or molecules, that you can kind of interchange those words. And I know that 1 mole is 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. So I know that I'm going to multiply. I know that these cancel out through division. I'm going to be multiplying, and this is 1.2 times 10 to the 24th. I could write particles, you can write atoms, molecules, whatever you want to write, of C6H10S. Okay, so basically what I did is I did a 2-step problem. I did the first step here, I did the second step here. Now normally, and what I'm hoping to get you guys used to, is just doing it all at one time. All right, let's look at this next learning check. How many water molecules, so you know me, I'm going to box this in, that's what I'm looking for, are in 24 grams of H2O. So let's put 24 grams of H2O. I know that grams of H2O are going to go on bottom, and, ooh, I need molecules. They're not asking for moles, but I cannot go straight from grams to molecules. I need to figure out how many moles there are first. I know that in 1 mole, water, if you look it up, hydrogen's 1, so that's 2. Oxygen is 16. That's going to be 18 grams. So here's my first step. Now I'm in moles, but I want molecules. So this is what I was talking about, doing both steps back to back. I'm going to put moles of water down here. I'm going to put MC, molecules. I know in 1 mole there are 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. So what this tells me through these steps is I'm going to take 24 divided by 18. And then I'm going to multiply that by 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd, and that will give you 8 times 10 to the 23rd molecules of water. All right, we have one more learning check, and then I'm going to write down a guide that will help you. Hopefully it will help you. It'll kind of guide you in like, what should I be doing? And we'll use that a lot from here on out, this guide. And I will refer back to it a lot. All right, so let's do the last learning check before I write that down. Actually, let me go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and write that down, and then let's see if we need to use it on this. All right, so the guide that I have them, and I have them write this on their periodic table. I'm going to write down grams. You can go to moles.